Howdy, Austin. My name is Emanuel Alejandro Delgadillo. Everybody knows me as Manny Fresh. Welcome to my podcast, Manny Sales Soirée.
Yeah.
I have a good friend, Brandon Antone, who I met through John from Network Under 40. I had John on the last episode. So so go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience. 40.
Yeah, Brandon Antone. I live out here in Austin, Texas. Like a lot of people, work in tech, but I'm an avid martial artist. I like to train, do a little bit of kickboxing, a little Muay Thai, like to cook and everything. So that kind of helps me escape from, the day-to-day of my work, which is sales engineer. I work in tech sales as a solution engineer for a place called Cloudera that manages data analytics, machine learning, all that sort of stuff. So do a lot of fun stuff. So
that's awesome.
Dynamic guy. Yeah.
You are very sophisticated. I remember this guy put together for me a cologne, right? You put so that was really good. Very powerful.
I was like, hey, what's the, it's like, tell me the seasons, tell me how you wear your cologne and everything like that. I love that sort of stuff. I have multiple hobbies, multiple interests at times. So sometimes it can be a little too much. Sometimes I have to calm myself down because I have to be, okay, let me focus on this one thing, this one interest, and learn everything as I can. But that's kind of, it helps being curious. It just makes things, variety is the spice of life, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what? And I think it was because of you, I tried my first beef crudo. Remember?
Yeah.
Salt and thyme.
Oh yeah? Nice.
I think you introduced me there and we went there for dinner.
Oh,
on 7th.
Yeah.
It closed.
Yeah, it is, man.
Yeah,
sucks.
so that was a good spot. Yeah, but that was a really good spot. But anyway, tell me more about you. How do you get into sales, and...
Yeah. It's an interesting journey because I am what we call a sales engineer. You might hear solution architect, you might hear solution engineer. So I am the technical guy on the sales team. I help support and enable the people on the sales side because software is complex, right? And that means that you need someone that's a techie that understands that. Now, how I got here was I have about 15 years experience in technology. I started at Rackspace, more on the cloud computing side, and I've always been. I'm 41 now, but ever since in my teens and 20s, both my parents worked at AT&T, so I was always interested in tech at an early age. So I'm thankful for that. Always kind of curious, always tinkering, played around with Linux, played around with other stuff. But one of my big roles was working at Rackspace on the support side and learning about technology, learning about cloud, learning about how this works, how Linux. And then I kind of got more on the data side on an operation level. Then I had a few other jobs. The funny story about where I'm at right now, being at Cloudera, I was at Cloudera for about almost 5 years on the big data side, and I left because a company called Splunk asked me, hey, you would be great. Have you ever thought about being a sales engineer? And I knew of what that was, but it's such a nascent role that people are like, what does a sales engineer do? And I was kind of curious myself. And ultimately it is, sometimes I'm presenting, sometimes I'm doing workshops, sometimes I'm doing proof of concepts to explain how the product works. So I took that role, and it allowed me to learn more about the sales engineer role from a perspective of how to support the sales side. There were some layoffs that happens. That's kind of part of it. And now I'm actually back at Cloudera because they wanted me back. So I tend to help, I'm more of a partner solution engineer. So I help find partners that'll integrate with our product that ultimately play nice with our product. And it's a force multiplier. We say we integrate with AWS or we integrate with NVIDIA. It's like, that's more money for us. It's more of the bottom line of like, hey, we can sell together and play well together. So my journey is kind of unique in the sense of I'm not the typical salesperson because I'm more of a tech person, but by all means, I've known people like myself that are like, hey, are you good at presenting? Are you good with people in terms of trying to understand them? Like I love meeting new people just in terms of interest. So that helps me out, relate to people and understand where they're coming from. Do I love technology? Yeah, I love technology. And I like to share that passion with people. Anything, honestly, man, you know me, it's like the cologne thing was like, if there's anything I'm passionate about and I enjoy, I'm going to share with whoever's around me. And my love of technology allows me to do that for my customers and my partners. So I'm like, is this a good fit? Yeah, it is. So that's kind of like my journey with going in sales.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then earlier we were talking about how Austin is the capital for remote tech
Yeah.
work, right?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So obviously you're in the right city,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
for tech, for the tech city. And you're not originally from Austin, right? You're from Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay. When did you get into Austin?
Oh man, I moved from Atlanta when I was late 20s. So 2011, I moved to San Antonio.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I was at Rackspace for about 5 years, and I moved to Austin 2017. But man, I moved around a lot. I went to Virginia Tech, lived in Northern Virginia area for a while, but definitely like if people know me, definitely have that like East Coast kind of mindset. I think sometimes it's kind of funny because I kind of, I don't know, something about me, the vibe and everything like that. But Austin's been good to me in terms of like, tech work, meeting people, like meeting you, man, meeting other people. So it's like super cool. It's too hot though sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted the Texas heat. So, 25 years in Iowa and then 6 years in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah. I see.
I about had it. So I'm like, yeah, let's go to Austin. So, but anyway, I mean, you're a pretty good self-motivated person. You're one of the few guys that invites me out to work out instead of for a drink. So I love that. He took me out did some Muay Thai. So that was a little.
He was doing it.
Yeah, that was a little intense. But let's tie that to sales. What keeps you motivated? To keep going.
Yeah, I mean, for me in sales is just more like, I think with anything in life, with me, and going back to having different interests, is just like I like a challenge. That's who I am. Like, it's funny because you're one of the few people you'll meet that works in tech, works in sales, and been in the ring also. Like I've actually competed in an amateur fight. Thinking about competing one next month and everything. Oh, nice. So it's like I like the challenge of saying that. Whether it's like I can't do it, that's one thing. I'm gonna be motivated to get there, or I just simply like a problem. I just simply like the challenge of saying like, okay, how can we make this customer? How can we get this accomplished? How can we meet these MBOs at the end of the quarter? How can we get this integration done? It's fun. So, for example, one of the things I'm working on, NVIDIA is one of our partners, and we're trying to work on these kind of proof of concepts of how certain use cases that you can do with our product and their product. And I'm like, okay, we're going to start from scratch and build this. And it's sitting down, looking at code and trying to determine how it works. The challenge. It's just something about that. Ever since I was a kid, I like tinkering. It's just breaking something apart and doing that. But that's what keeps me motivated. It's just, if I was not, I know that I need a job or need a role that challenges me day by day. Yeah. And this allows me to wear multiple hats because sometimes I have to present. Sometimes I have to sit down and write code. And sometimes I have to delegate and think strategically. It's not just someone's giving me something to do. And it's not like I'm pressing a button or doing something that's a repeatable thing. This allows me to do dynamic things. And like, for example, last night I was at an AI event and I met some pretty good people for a good opportunity. And I'm going to be like, hey, we're going to have lunch next week. That sort of stuff is really cool because I get to engage on different levels like that social level, the technical level and everything. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And tell me a little bit more of the MMA background.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just, there's a Muay Thai event. That's another thing. We're trying to fundraise for it because it's like, there's a event called USMTO. It's like US Muay Thai org. And it's, they have a tournament style, but I'm an old man right now. I'm 41, but it's not that. I need people that are in my weight class, in my division. But yeah, I think about, I've been training at this place called Black Sheep MMA and it's been there probably close to a year and a half. Okay. And I was thinking to myself, like, I still have it, man. Let's do it. And it's just like who I am. Yeah. I like to challenge myself. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of challenges, I think that's how I got into recruiting. I didn't know anything about, obviously my best friend, one of my best friends, Amber Martinez, he, funded Infinite Resources back in 2019. And that's his, and he has like 20 plus years, close to 30 years in the recruiting industry. That's as much as I knew. Yeah. And then I landed in Austin. I wanted to change in career. I've always been in sales. So
you're doing sales. You've always done sales.
Yeah. And then I was like, that's as much as I knew, but I found a company that, or they found me and, I saw that challenge. I wanted to sharpen up new tools and I was like, I think let's take up on this challenge, kind of like you said. And that, you're right. That kind of keeps you motivated, to the.
Yeah. It's funny because I wouldn't consider myself a pure salesperson, but anyone in the sales work, those people are like very self-starter, very motivated, highly motivated, kind of more glass half full type of motive.
Yep.
They're kind of like go-getters.
Yep.
That's the thing ultimately. So it's like, it's hard to not be around that and be infected by that and just be like, I want to do that. So I feel like with any salesperson, they have to have that kind of like gumption about them to succeed in that.
Yeah.
So
what about love and hate? Because I know it is a love and hate relationship when it comes to sales. So, is it something that you love, about, your industry as well, the company and sales in general? And then, what's the other thing that you hate?
Oh yeah. That's always fun. For me, I think cause I love technology. So I'm an optimist in terms of techno-optimist, I would say, in terms of what technology can do. And for example, we're in the AI space right now. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a lot of things we can do, a lot of things we can solve. So it's cool to spread that. I really love, honestly, demoing stuff and demonstrating and just talking in front of people because it gives me like a level of authority and power that I can I can control the audience and they have to hang on every word I say and listen to me. And it's something about that because both my parents were professionals, like worked at AT&T and it's something about that. It kind of takes me back to that in a sense of, I don't know, I like something about that, like having a level of authority and knowledge that you can spread. One of the things I don't like though, is that you have to be mindful of who you share information with, because they will take something, like you could be working on something, you share a little bit, someone else, an overly ambitious person, sales might take that and make their own thing. And then they present it before you. They might be like, they're like, hey, like, by the way, that, and then they'll present it as their own because they're trying to build their career.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't think it's malicious. It's just that people are trying to like get recognition and visibility. And I understand. And it's funny because my role is not as obvious at times because I'm supporting people to build sales. So sometimes it's like, if a sale complete, the only way I know is like if a sale completes, because we've done an integration months ago. We've done that thing there, but they might get more shine because, okay, they closed this deal, but how'd you get to the deal? You needed support. You need people on the sales side to do that, the technical side to do that. But when they close the deal, it's usually the AE or someone that's actually, so it's like the visibility thing. It's always competing for like the spotlight. Gotcha. I feel like that's kind of be negative. So yeah.
Earlier in my career, through a different industry, when I converted a little bit more into a leader from, just becoming in sales, truly a salesman to actually becoming a leader and build my own team and everything. The very heart of that company was to be a selfless leader, so we're able to actually coach people and help other people instead of like you're like, hey, you probably have that same mentality where you're sharing that information, but instead of them like thanking you or acknowledging that, they're like, oh, this is my idea or this is my thing now. But do you have anybody that you look up to that kind of it's in that realm of a leader or a mentor? Or
I'm trying to think, like my direct manager, he's ex-military. He worked on the financial sector. So he tries to mentor me and coach me and just, I try to seek out, like, I don't, in terms of a famous person, probably not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I try to seek mentorship and always, kind of goes back to the whole martial art thing. It's like, no matter what your belt, you're a white belt. That's the thing. You're always learning, no matter what your rank is or whatever, how it's experience. I have to think that I'm coming with an empty cup and I don't know anything.
Yep.
So I look at someone like my direct boss, Troy, or even like some of my friends in real life. My buddy, Ed, he's in his 50s. He's a good friend of mine, has helped me through just other aspects of my life, but coming with that empty cup of just learning as much as you can. And of course we'll get to it later, just books that I think that are good, but I'm always on that thirst for knowledge. And you have to ask questions, I think, whether you're like in sales, if you're trying to close a deal, you're asking questions in terms of how to get to that technical win or how to get to that problem they're trying to nerve. But as someone trying to develop, me in terms of self-development, you're always asking questions. Yeah. Right. So being curious. Yeah.
What about some challenges? I guess, in the tech industry has changed so much, and now with AI integration. Yeah. But what are some challenges that you're seeing right now, like in the tech world? as far as growth? I know in the tech industry, AI is not necessarily a technical challenge for sales. But if anything, it's another tool. But any challenges that you're seeing out there on the tech industry or world?
It's funny because last night we were talking about AI and the law. That's what I was talking about. It's like how are we going to navigate? It's with any new technology. It seems like the technology comes and then the laws come later. So it's like, how are we going to deal with copyright? How are we going to deal with security? That sort of stuff. I mean, one of the things as I see right now, like one of the huge challenges, or one of the things I'm really concerned about in tech, is all these security leaks, man. Like AT&T a few months ago, like leaked all their. I'm an AT&T customer on the home internet, and I'm thinking to myself that all my data's leaked, and from that, credit cards and everything. I worry about that sort of stuff because data is so ubiquitous. We have it on our phones. We provide it freely. So I worry about the security aspect, to be honest. Like, gotcha. I think about that, and it's funny how little I feel like I know about that. How are we going to protect this data? How are we going to get, especially when you're talking about AI, how are we going to get these insights and understand, but also protect the most important person? We're the consumer. We're the product in the sense, even on social media or even all these other things we're always the product, but are they going to protect us? So
gotcha. Yeah. So let's do a little comparison, because obviously the industries are very different. We're more on the labor, manpower, type of thing. You're in the tech industry. And to compare sales techniques, I guess, I'm old school, so like I still believe in like door-to-door knocking, meeting the person, shaking their hand, generally ask if we can help. How AI has helped, if any, on your sales process, or have you even integrated that into?
I personally haven't, but that would be something like a business development rep, like a BDR or SDR would do in terms of
gotcha.
Kind of like, back in the day it was cold calling. Now it's mass, maybe mass emails, that sort of stuff. So it kind of more like that, at least on that end. Now AI is more, it allows you to automate. Automation's been around for at least a decade, for at least, so for example, me being on the tech side, if I'm doing a task constantly, if I'm trying to check if this IP is up or check if this server is up, there's certain automation I can do that is redundant. That's a little bit different. So a lot of people will think that AI is ubiquitous, or overlaps with automation. It kind of does in a sense. You can automate things or make things easier in terms of a task. So if you're SDR, BDR, and it's like, I need to write me a script to talk to these types of industries. I want to talk to the banking and financial part. It does help you. It does help you in terms of just having something that's a good script that you can just blast, and then you can do that. So I've seen it with that, or even summarize. So for example, if you're doing market research on a company, like tell me a little bit more about, AMD or Dell, and I want to know a little bit of what do they sell. Can you get, and you can get things back. The thing is, the problem with AI though right now is that data is not always, can be stale, and at times that can give inaccurate results, or dated results. So you have to be mindful of that. We haven't integrated AI into our recruiting process, but I think it would be a good tool. So for example, we, as a recruiters in the recruiting company, or most recruiting companies, once you find the talent, you kind of stop there, Yes.
So you're going to overpass or not even look at some of the resumes. But because we're a little bit more of a headhunting company, we are always recruiting. We're always trying to find that talent, so we can have that the virtual roster of talent. And I think from what I hear, with AI, we would be able to basically make it a little bit easier, where we would be able to look at all the resumes. So the recruiter's still doing the job. AI is not going to take the job, but now AI would go to every single resume and kind of filter them in a timely manner or better for my recruiters. Kind of what impact do you see on your industry?
So luckily, I don't see an impact with my role personally, because it's more specialized. There's a human aspect, but I do see, for example, people wanting to chat with their documents, like type of thing. You can take a document like a resume and you can say, how many years experience is this? Or then you can get insights. Does this person experience with doing that based on this data, on this data set, in terms of data set being person's resume? And you can compare that with other data. Like you can imagine, dude, taking the resume and something like, for example, in our industry, if you're a programmer, you have something called GitHub. It's like a code repository. Imagine I can take that and combine the data from that and combine data from maybe like public record of who they are. And I can use that together and I can talk to it with AI and say, hey, like, tell me about this candidate. Tell me about their experience. And I can use not just looking at the resume, but taking that data, taking multiple data sources and getting insights. That's amazing. You can totally find better candidates and like be more refined with your candidacy with something like that.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
What about the adapting to the change? You know, for, you know, in our industry, we had to adapt to become walked a little bit away from the traditional staffing where we can put, you know, a little bit where it's very labor force driven, especially we're minority owned. So we automatically attract the Latino worker or, you know, labor worker. And we had to go into more like, you know, blue collar jobs and do head hunting. So we do have to adapt with the change. Obviously your change, adapting to change in technology is a little bit different. So can you tell me like what you've been adapting to or what do you see changing?
I mean, it's funny because I think adapting to probably more about it's more certain tasks I can do. I can probably automate easier. But it can be hard to identify that if someone's good at code or not good at coding or something, because you can use AI to streamline it, but it does make it easier. For example, if I'm trying to make a proof of concept and I can just ask AI to like, can you write me a template, and I can use that. And it does make things more efficient, more fast, you know, but I think it's like the interesting thing with a new technology, and I might not be answering this directly because I'm trying to think through. But with any technology, the demand on the person will be more. Like, for example, when email was out, people were expected to correspond through email. Now that everyone has a smartphone, everyone expects you to be highly available. Like if I have a Slack or email, I'm probably going to answer that within 10-15 minutes because I have it available. So I think on the industry level, there's going to be a level of like core competency of what AI can do and its capabilities. That could be something as simple as like, what type of prompts, how do I ask AI the type of questions to get the certain insights? That's something in itself, because I can't just ask like, you know, for example, the cameras, like what type of camera is this? Or something, okay, it's a Sony, whatever it may be. Okay. Is this good for like certain type of lighting? Does this work with this certain color temperature? Let's say I'm in the, you know, in the automotive, I'm asking more detailed questions in terms of like, how does this align with this customer's needs and interests? So we have to learn how to adapt, how to use AI in the sense of like, it's going to be another tool, you know? But I think that's like when people were talking years ago, like we have to learn how to code or learn we're gonna have to learn. I think a lot of people are gonna have to learn base competency of how to interact with AI.
Okay, so, gotcha.
Yeah.
You know, what do you see in the future, you know, for your specific role, you know, like in sales, you know, like what do you see the future of sales looking like?
So for sales, especially tech sales, I'm going to see that people, technology is going to get more complex, even though there's going to be leaps in terms of making it easier. But I'm saying behind the scenes in terms of making, you know, like the end product's going to be easier for the customer because you want people to consume it. But the technology behind it is going to be more complex. So you're going to need more people like myself to be more competent and be able to explain it from a non-technical perspective, or to say, hey, like, how can I get this to work for me for my business needs? Right.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So in this case, like I can tell you like all day about this phone, like, okay, it's a Snapdragon processor. It does that. No one cares. Like, how can I communicate faster? How can I do the things I want to do better? So we need people. There's probably going to be a need for more sales engineers, to be honest, because I feel like, and I try to evangelize it to a certain degree to people, because I know a lot of my friends that are very technical, and they probably do have the human skills to interact with that sort of stuff. I like that, because like as it gets, like I said, as things get more complicated, you need people that can explain that. And I honestly think I've seen it in the industry where if you can make a product and you can use AI to improve the code, you're probably not going to need the engineers, the developers as much. So I would anticipate certain levels of engineers are either going to be like eliminated, like lower level ones, and it's going to be more specialized. But you need more people to understand that and talk to people. So I think, like right now, there's not many sales engineers in the industry. I think there's going to be more.
Gotcha.
That's the upshot, because you need to actually explain and tell people how to use it.
Yeah, awesome. Which is, in comparison, it's the opposite. When I was talking to a civil engineer, and the civil engineer was telling me like that's going to be more of a dying breed when it comes with technology and AI versus sales engineer in the industry. Yeah,
that's the thing. And I mean, I've known some people that are engineers that kind of go to, they're not really building anything anymore. Yeah. They're just trying to explain how this works to sell it. So, because you are always going to need to sell. I mean, I've noticed probably the past 3-4 years, especially the pandemic, there was a hiring practice in tech where companies would poach certain people, like operations and developers, because they were trying to not get them out the industry so other companies wouldn't compete. That's not unethical, but they would pay them. They would hire them and pay them, and they didn't really have like necessarily a project. They just were kind of safeguarding them so like other competitors wouldn't like poach them to be competitive. Yeah. But now it's like we're kind of in this post-pandemic type of thing, and there's economic uncertainty. A lot of companies are running lean, man. A lot of those roles are being eliminated. So they're just going to run the essentials, like what's needed. But like I said, the upshot is you always need to sell, man. There's always going to be needs. There are always going to be people need to sell. That's a greenfield. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And speaking of, earlier, you were talking a little bit about, about the customer. So with customer interaction, I'm interested to know the difference between you and I, because, my customer interaction is a little bit more on the decision maker, HR, talent acquisition, the hiring manager that needs the talent. Yeah. What's your customer interaction like?
So potential customers, we kind of, in my head, I try to align them with persona. I might be level sitting with another engineer, like a DevOps engineer, talking about the technical aspects. They might be really thrilled about the technical aspects and understand like, oh, this is so much faster than the version 1.2 or whatever it may be, or whatever it may hit. But then I might be talking to like, a director of product, the chief technical officer, because they might be dealing with competing objectives or competing things they might have to control, and they might be trying to cut costs. Like, will this product help me cut costs? Will this product make me more efficient in what we're trying to accomplish? So sometimes I may have the like I said, the engineer or the director I might be talking to. It might be C-suite at times. So at the moment, probably more director level, because they're trying to be like cross-functioning and everything. So those type of people, I'm not really talking to the person, the end user. So in this case, I'm talking about AI. I probably won't be talking to the person that might be just using it for the day-to-day, like a frontline person.
Gotcha.
But I may be talking to the person that might be maintaining it or building this sort of stuff up. So it's really interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
So yeah.
Any interesting personal insights or predictions in the industry?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I tell people, if you're new to tech or wanting to get into tech, I recommend learning AI or getting a cybersecurity. I don't know much about cybersecurity in terms of like my personal knowledge, but there was a statistic like 2021 that says that the unemployment rate for security engineers was, I think, at 0%, because there's millions of roles that that need to be backfilled and need to be applied, because we have so much data in the world. It's such a high demand industry. So if I was someone new coming in the industry, I would realize that, hey, like I will look at the trends of what's going on in AI and cybersecurity of those. So
gotcha.
Recommend that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of, tips, what are some, tips that you would want to, like maybe your top 3 tips that you would want to tell somebody that's going into sales, in tech sales?
Yeah. What I was saying earlier, I think when I was talking about asking questions, it's just being curious, man. Just being curious, understanding things around you. That means whether being curious about how an organization works, if I'm asking certain questions to unearth use cases or wherever it may be, but also asking like, how can we improve this? How can we make this better in terms of that? That even ties back to me, the whole engineering hat of like when I was a operation engineer or on the support side, it's like, how can I make my day easier by
Yeah.
If I identify a problem and I see it repeated, I'm going to make it something efficient. So I'm asking myself a question. Another thing is, I think sometimes with being in tech sales, we get in more of the sales side because we're a hybrid role, and we forget about brushing up on our technical skills. So I say it to myself, and I say it to other people, like, keep up on your technical skills, keep abreast of technology, keep tinkering. I suggest what I do is I go on mailing lists. I keep, email lists, Tech Presso, Tech Meme, TLDR. Those are really good ones that just tell me about what's going on in the industry. Like, whether it's, some of it veers political because some of the things impact like certain industries, like security, or when we talk about, for example, I know they keep talking about breaking up Google, an antitrust thing, or like a monopoly thing. They keep talking about that. But for me, it allows me to say, hey, what is Meta coming out with a new large language model for tech? What's going on with Tesla? So I can keep abreast of what's going on.
Gotcha.
So keep abreast. That's actually 2 points. Keep your technical skills, keep those good, and also keep aware of what's going on in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So I think those three.
Yeah. The first thing you said resonated with me, which was to be. We're gonna have to edit this because I forgot. No, it was the. How do you make your life easier? Your job easier. But we are a recruiting company, but we don't do any day labor. And, when I got into this industry, my former employer wanted day labor, and it was so hard to manage. Customers unhappy. You're competing against 3-4 other agencies, for the same customer, for the same thing, to get the same numbers. Yeah. And when I got into this, I'm like, man, that is a lot of work, paying people daily. Yeah. People not, we would dispatch someone, and then we provide equipment, and then they would go to another agency, and they would get hired because now they have equipment, and then they would get higher, and then we would lose equipment. Wow. So when I took the role, like, man, there's got to be a way that we make this a little bit easier. Yeah. And it was like, what if I just go after the full-time jobs, and that's kind of what we do here in Infinity Resources. We don't do any day labor. We do full-time employment. We want to make sure that eventually, our staff gets hired by the employer, and it's a better turnaround, it's a better customer service level. Yeah. Customers is happier, we're able to not necessarily have competition because we were able to deliver a little bit better. So but
no, it's always nice with that. It's like trying to find the path of least resistance. I mean, obviously in sales, there's always a need to unearth new opportunities, but if there's a certain avenue that's a more profitable, it's easier. Like and it's not obvious at times. It's like really good. So it's good to combine that. So that's really cool. Yeah. Good on you, man.
So earlier you talked about that we're going to talk about books. So give me some books that you recommend.
Sure. I always talk about this one because I've given this one as a gift for people. Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Okay. Really good book because this guy is a former FBI negotiator. Oh, okay. And he had to negotiate, like, people's lives were at stake, and there's mistakes that he made, but he talks about how you can apply those negotiation tactics into real life situations. A lot of it encompasses kind of body language in terms of mirroring that person. Some of it's something he's called tactical empathy. Okay. Sometimes that's just like trying to understand where they're coming from, but also at times also mirroring, not only mirroring their body language, but mirroring their own language in terms of what they say. For example, it's like, I'm having a rough time today. And then you kind of mirror a rough time today, huh? And then it's just, it kind of repeats what they're thinking. And then you can kind of use that as a method to get the outcome you want. Gotcha. Really good book. I really like that. There's another one. I can't remember the name. It was a woman that I think it was TED Talk one. It was like not that one. It was, I think, Talk Like TED. So Talk Like the TED and Sell with a Story. Those are really good ones because for me, someone that's I like to talk in facts and everything. I kind of like talk in and I think sometimes when you're talking with sales, we have to have that emotional connection, even though we're ones and zeros, like we're still tech, like I'm in tech, but at the same time, a compelling story will sell more than you know this. I mean, selling more than telling me, oh, that's 10 times faster. Does that? Okay, cool. Tell me how this helps someone with the outcome they're trying to get that aligns with something I'm trying to do. Those 2 books are really good. Sell the Story, Talk Like TED, because it helps you present in a manner that's in a storytelling perspective. And honestly, that will help better sales. That gets you, they're more compelling. It's more compelling than like just spitting out facts.
Gotcha.
So those books are good. And also there's a book called Mastering Technical Sales.
Okay.
It's like the Bible of sales engineering by John Kerr. So it's like a really, it's a dense book. It kind of encompasses
to your industry though. Right?
Yeah. It's very specific, but it's more software sales specific, but it's also it's sales engineering.
Okay.
Oh well. Gotcha. And one more, since I'm kind of on this, Think Faster, Talk Smarter. That's a good book because like right now you and I were talking unscripted. So it's like, it talks about how to structure your unscripted or improvised conversation at times. Even had me it even made me think about, maybe I should take an improv class. And I took one a few months ago. That was really fun.
Oh, okay.
Just like, I just wanted to see how it was.
Yeah.
Because thinking on your feet at times when you're put on the spot, that's not something that some people are really good with it. I can say I'm pretty decent at improvising, but at times, you know, given that the field I work in, I have to come up with kind of having scripted stories, man. We're talking about this sort of having compelling things you can talk about. You can just reference quickly. The book talks about how to structure that. So those 5, I'll give you like 5 books, man.
Yeah. So, awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So I think generally I'm I consider myself a positive person and high energy. You know, I don't let things kind of like bother me, but you know, how do you stay positive
Yeah, that's for me, having the being able to work out, man. I need to work out at least 3-4 days a week. I'm generally a high energy, positive person too, and just having downtime, dude. Like having just if I can take time to like cook a good meal for myself or something, just relax and something like that. That helps me out. But yeah, I have to have some sort of physical activity, dude. That sort of stuff. So
awesome.
For sure, dude.
And then what's your life motto? I guess in general. Because I know you, all the questions I'm asking is for the audience because I kind of know you well. I know you love to cook. You're a mixologist a little bit as well. You always like to try new things, which is great. I love that about you. I'm not a nature of habit. I do have to go try a new restaurant. I have to go do this new thing. But anyway, So back to your life motto. What?
Yeah, one of the core values I have in my life is just, and it's helped me out through a lot of my life, is just being resilient. But it kind of ties to something that my grandmother tells me as a kid. I have it in one of my coat pockets. I have it that I had made. It says, "Nothing beats failing but trying." That's what my grandmother tells me. It's like anything in life. It's like, like she said, nothing beats failing but trying. You have to try. You never know the possibility and everything like that. So I kind of live my life like that, trying new things and being like kind of curious. And sometimes it's almost like maybe too youthful at times, that kind of youthful curiosity to maybe I'm going to try this out, whatever. But that kind of helps me out because you only know where your limits are. And I think sometimes you have to know where your limit is, or like, hey, I tried that. It wasn't for me. Yeah. And that's fine. That's life. You're not going to be good at everything. Some things you might try and you might fail, or I've had times in my life where something really hurt, like emotionally or something, or going through something. It's like, it taught me something. So, but you always got to try. That's true. What it is. Yeah. So, that's true. Yeah.
I was vegan for 3 years and I did it cold turkey. Yeah. And never in a million years I would imagine that I could have done that until I tried it. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Well, for the audience, anybody that wants to connect with you, how can they reach out to you, or social media, LinkedIn or anything like that?
Yes. This will be on my Instagram, the Antone. That's my Instagram. But at the same time, professionally, you can find me, Brandon Antone. I'm on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect if you're in tech as well, or want to just sit down and get a coffee in terms of, learning more about tech. I would love to talk about that sort of stuff, or just get a workout in. We could just do that too. Talk about things. So those are, I'm on Facebook too. If you search my name everywhere. So
sounds good.
So yeah.
All right. We'll share with this, you guys. So thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah.